Welcome to Mind Games Reacts. My name is Weldon Green. I am a sports psychology trainer with a degree in sport and exercise psychology and a master's degree in sport and exercise psychology. And I train both traditional sports and electronic sports athletes in sports psychology, as well as coach a couple sports. I coach soccer and tennis and League of Legends. And in this video, I'm essentially deconstructing the mindset of one of the teams that competed in the finals for the MDI Cup that just happened this last weekend in World of Warcraft. So they won a place onto the global finals. They got first place and second place. And I'm deconstructing the post-game content of three players on those teams. The two veterans from the team that lost. This is the team that has 3 championship series over the last 3 tournaments and have won them all in a row. And they competed against and lost against this live keep pushing team that came into the tournament and took it all from them. And so I've just finished analyzing from the mentality perspective and explaining both how I deal with the mentalities that they are exhibiting from the protocol standpoint, and also a little bit of the science behind the competitive mindset that involves from the championship team that lost, so the team that was trying to hold off the challengers. And now I am analyzing the review day, the post-game review day of the you would say the captain of the team that won. And the main thing we're going to be talking about is underdog mentality, and also how that frees you up in order to have a more of a flow state focus on the competition and what that means for your performance. So without further ado, let's jump into it. This guy's name is, this guy's handle is DORKI, and you can find his information here. I tried to show a clip of his stream. He is watching his YouTube video about this. So if you go to his YouTube channel, you can actually see the video that he is watching on his stream about his the perspective of the last scene. But here he's doing commentary about his perspective, so we're actually watching his stream live. And I'm sharing his sponsors here because it's kind of like a React video, so I think that's just the right thing to do. Let's jump into it. The first thing we're going to be talking about...
Manga shakes during the finals? Actually, it was quite the opposite. The finals, our mindset going into this, we were like, let's go. Look, we already qualified. We're happy as fuck already. We don't give a fuck. We're just going to go in there and just put up a good show.
All right, so despite the swear words, what we have here is the quintessential underdog mindset. So the guy asked, or the Twitch chat asked, were your hands shaking during this? And he said quite the opposite. We had this underdog mentality, so we were just totally in the zone. And in the zone focus, so flow state is a flow state that was first researched and labeled by, I can never pronounce this guy's name. Chekova. Okay, hang on one second. I will get Google to say his name out loud for you so that you can actually hear it. Okay. Where is it? Here we go. Okay, here we go. Let me know if you can hear this.
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
Okay.
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
Yeah, so this is the guy who coined the term flow state, essentially. He was a psychological researcher, and we've kind of adopted it a lot in performance and sports psychology as a description for a state of focus where your brain's focus is transitioning very smoothly from task to task, and we characterize it. It is a state that is characterized by a type of different a checklist of types of focus, and is a state that is characterized by a certain set of experiences. So, for example, the experience of time dilation, the experience of joy in pursuit of something, the experience of ease or emotional comfort, it's a checklist of experiences. And it's a state that is characterized by a measurement of performance that, generally speaking, shows optimal performance for that person. So it means that you're not going to supersede what you can already do. You're going to get at most up to 100% of your capabilities. And if you were worse than another player, you're not going to flow state and beat them. Even if they're performing 80%, if your 100% isn't better than their 80%, you're just going to lose, right? But it is characterized by being able to pull out maximal effort, essentially, for yourself. And And in a team state, what that means is that there's very good mind reading or like, internal cues of like what it is the other person's going to do like before they do it. So you can pull out more of a team effort flow state. And usually that shows a lot more so usually the places that flow state does like the best in terms of the media is like when there is a maximal effort muscular need. So for example, a sprint or like a lift or some sort of coordinated simple throw or activity where there's like a maximal effort from musculature. So most humans are generally like going to come in close to the same as that. And then the differentiator at the top end might be somebody who's like able to essentially recruit more muscles and then do a performance that like supersedes. So swimming is a really good example of that because you have a lot of like lactic acid tolerance in swimming too. It's a very mental sport. Tennis is also a good example of that because you have like a lot of like coordinated stuff that you just can wipe away all the doubt and like put together a coordination system and be in flow state. Then for team sport, it's characterized by like, it's very easy to differentiate yourself a team that's in flow state. It's also rarer to see because one person not being in flow state can kind of break it out, but essentially, if you think of like every person in the team being at 100%, the team's coordination level determines like how much of that is put forth. So you could have a team coordinated at like an 80% level, and only 80% of each person's individual like cumulative skill can be expressed. Or you could have a team that is like 100% coordinated, and that means that like 100% of each of the person's cumulative, of each member of the team's cumulative skill could be expressed like within the match. And so it's important to have a coordinated team, and flow state can like endeavor to do that. So flow state shows up in performance results, but keep in mind also that there are people who do not experience flow state but pull out the same level of performance through training their focus. Because what we have found is that your focus needs to be in a present state focus, so not the past or the future. It needs to be in a non-judgmental focus, so not like saying something is right or wrong, it just is. And a task focus versus an outcome focus. So this is an example of what your focus is and what your focus is not, of those like three spectrums. And if you have that, even if you don't experience flow state on the characteristics of like what it feels like to be in flow state, so it feels easy, instead it could feel super hard. You experience time dilation, instead it could feel like time slogs on forever. You experience like precognizance, kind of like knowing already what's going to happen. Instead you can experience like just being totally lost and like barely drowning and catching up with like what's going on. But if your brain, so your attention is flowing in this like non-judgmental, present-focused, task-oriented way, you can experience the same outcome in terms of performance as somebody who's experiencing what is characterized as flow state. So keep in mind that like the mechanisms of flow state are the important thing here, and you can accidentally get in it chemically, which is great. It's great for your performance, or you can also train to achieve similar results through concentration, which is why I have an online course in the first place, because otherwise it wouldn't matter, right, if this wasn't a trainable skill. But anyway, so what he's talking about here is literally the underdog mentality, which frees you up to have this present-focused, non-judgmental, task-focused flow state, which is great, because underdog mentality is like a free way to get flow state if you want to win. You can have underdog mentality where people are like, oh, we're going to lose, and then they don't try hard. That's horrible. But if you have underdog mentality where like we were striving and we think that we can win, we have a belief that we can win, and we actually are going to try to, then like you can have this like experience of flow. Let's push play again.
Well, at least that was my mindset, and
right.
that's what I was telling my team. Happy
it's
as
key
fuck
here.
already.
It's key here that like there's the aspect of joy here, but it's key that he's talking about it's his mindset, because you could have a team member who's actually annoyed with you that you've already kind of like mentally lost. You're like, we're just going to lose. And you can have a teammate that's really pissed with that. But if you can like get on the same page of the underdog mindset where like, yeah, we've already lost, but like also we could win this, like they could mess up and we could like play really well and we could win this. So if you can get everybody on the same page there as a leader, that's an essential part to pulling this together as a 5-man unit.
We don't give a fuck. We're just gonna go in there and just like put up a good show. Well, at least that was my mindset, and that's what I was telling my team. Misclick? No, because we have a weak aura that just auto chooses. It doesn't matter what we click. If I click 5th skull, it just gives me bulwark regardless.
It's not really about the mindset.
Too bad for now. You see, I would say the same too.
So is he saying like his Twitch chat said too bad for now, who's the guy who made the mistake in the decider match that resulted in them losing to this team? He's about to explain it.
But it was a really big rookie mistake on them. I guess now specifically. Like anyone should have known, especially at his level, that like you can't just tag those mobs with a range tag.
Right.
You have to go in there and pick up all the mobs. Like I'm sure you can ask many of the top level tanks or just like most tanks in general should know.
Right. I literally play with Now's UI, and in his UI he labeled all of the mobs in that whole dungeon, which is one of the reasons I play with his UI. And even I know at my like low IO level of like, 50, tanking 15 to 20s that like you have to walk in there to get them. That there's these 2 mobs that aren't chained. But probably it's because I'm in a lot of pub groups and have made that mistake a million times, or at least like 4 times.
Know that. So while I did feel bad, it was like a really big mistake that they shouldn't have. They have a 5th man too? You mean a 6th man? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward
yo,
here.
the 6th man is fucking huge.
The next thing we're gonna talk about is like in a few minutes in terms of mindset. So we're gonna go ahead here to the next time they talk about. Here we were like shaking essentially.
Streamed by accident once. Well, I leaked it specifically.
Okay. Target dragon.
Arms warrior tag, yo, we leaked that on stream by accident once. Well, I leaked it specifically.
The other team used an arms warrior, I think.
I want to watch the top.
Jar
Jar opens. I'm going through. And then Growl fucking dies. I'm like, what the fuck happened here? I don't know what the fuck happened to Growl there. I guess he got bitten.
You want more?
No. Just
Oh,
let's go.
okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Let me see it then for boss.
Yo, we were in a rush here. 9 minutes in. We're not even at the boss yet. Kick.
Shield. Dispel.
Oh, missed the shield. Or missed the key.
We were kind of monkey shaking here a little bit. I mean, I figured we were just gonna lose this map and just move on. But it's whatever.
Yeah.
Trees these.
No more stops from.
Putting like. Actually, I'm sending.
So like here, usually we should be on the boss by now. I'm pretty sure Echo's probably on the boss here by now. But we also got less count. Not too sure what.
Right. So here he's talking about like the performance mindset specifically of this esport. So this is different in every esport, but the challenge in this particular esport is that you have this black box that is the opponent, right? And you are not allowed to know where they are, which by the way is really stupid design. So this is one thing that Blizzard should immediately change about the MDI from the competitive sports psychology perspective, is like they can just only guess at where their opponents are. And then, and they're doing that by watching the stream on a separate monitor, but it's delayed. So they just kind of like have to extrapolate kind of like where they are. And then they're kind of like in their own world, like trying to make decisions about the risk analysis of their pull. And they're feeling like he said here, he's feeling behind. They know that their split is bad. They know that they're going to like lose the map and move on and just like whatever, because they like, he already is feeling like a little shaky, like his hands are like tense, right? Because he's feeling the pressure from being behind. Now, from a competitive standpoint, this is like completely useless. Like not knowing where your opponents are in the game makes this essentially just as 2 speed runs that could be done on completely different days and then put next to each other. So like, for example, Echo could speed run this the day before and they'll just like record it, send it to the judges, and then DORKI could speed run this the day after and record it, send it to the judges in secret, and it would be irrelevant that they're playing at the same time. But what they're doing is they're putting up these like speed runs against each other, and the idea is that like, why would they do them at the same time? It's just for the viewer. It's only for the viewer. But like the viewer's perspective is like, well, these 2 people are speedrunning the dungeon at the same time, and one of them's faster and one of them is slower, but there's no interaction, so it's irrelevant. Like I could just watch the winner and I wouldn't ever have to watch the loser lose the speedrun because they're just playing worse, and who cares? And like we get to know in real time who's going to win and lose, but we kind of already know going in. And also the mistakes made like halfway through the dungeon, and then that's it. And then the other team just kind of like comes back and halfway pulls stuff. And like, it's like the worst feeling ever when you wipe or you make a mistake, because you feel like you can never catch it up, and you don't know how to take any risks in order to do that because you don't know where the other team is. So the way to solve that is to give live action updates of what's happening to the other team so that they can change their play pattern and their play behavior to accommodate like trying to win or lose. Right? So what happens is the team that's behind can start playing riskier and actually have a potential to make a comeback, and the team that's ahead will start playing like safer and taking less risks, essentially like securing the victory, but also in kind of like an obtuse way, giving more opportunities for the other team to make a comeback by playing like riskier. So what usually happens instead is that the better team continues to do bigger and better pulls, which they still have the timings for, and they still have rehearsed, and like essentially close it out with like a massive lead, and it's not even close. But what could happen is that the front team kind of slows down, knowing that they have it secured, and kind of like making on the fly decisions about like how to like tone it down a little bit, which could end up actually screwing with their cooldowns and lead to like a much slower time. Or at least like a time within the realm of like catch up, and the other team could like know exactly how far behind they are and start taking risks that would properly lead to a victory. Like they could map out in their mind where they're going. And I think that the reason Blizzard doesn't do this is, one, they're super confused because it started out with like the secret, not co-streaming setup, and they didn't want, for some reason, they don't want the other team to know. Like I don't think they ever questioned that assumption or wondered like why it is, like why the other team wouldn't know where the other team is. Like they just kind of like did it that way accidentally for some reason, and like they've just kept it that way. And it doesn't make any sense from the actual sport perspective of what would allow the players to perform in a competitive manner versus just practicing a bunch and then playing out their road. Like you could literally like pre-record both of these the day before and send them in, and then just play them both at the same time on stream. It would make no difference from a competitive angle because they can't make any decisions in the map based on what their competitors are doing. So it's irrelevant that they're playing at the same time. And that is just stupid. It just doesn't make any sense. All right. So let's jump ahead to 2157. He talks more at the end about like kind of this underdog mindset.
How loud was the growl nurse scream? You'll see. I'll get to it. Yeah, see it. These pulls were spicy as fuck, though. Down. It's easy.
He's going to talk about why in a second.
Yeah, finish that one. Start hitting down. Yeah, like here, I'm like fucking, you can tell I'm like, we gotta fucking go, man. 1344, this is not a good time for us. I'm like, we just gotta go. We killed the caster. Let's go. We just gotta go pull the boss. You can tell our team is like Monka shaking.
So here he's doing these really spicy pulls. It's incredibly entertaining. It's high risk, high reward. And the reason he is doing these pulls is because he is anticipating his opponent's position in the dungeon and making appropriate tactical decisions to try to beat them. Okay? So if he was in a vacuum, if he wasn't thinking about his opponents at all, he'd just be thinking about his split. He wouldn't know whether or not it was ahead or behind, right? He would have no knowledge of whether or not it was a fast or a bad time, just for him, but not relative to like any other team. But the players don't get live updates during the performance of like how the other team is doing. So what they have to do is they have to go and they have to watch their opponent's VODs, figure out what their timers are and what their splits are, and then they get a feel for like what's fast and slow in the dungeon, and then have the screen open on a different screen and see if they're making any mistakes, but only with like a 2 or 3 minute delay, and kind of like guess the future and be like, okay, so like if I think about 2 minutes ago, we were here, and so their splits are like on time right now, and so our splits are behind. Which is just like a really obtuse, long, convoluted way of like accomplishing what would simply be accomplished by making this a real sport. And just like literally having it like in the same studio competing against each other, or like at least live streamed with no delay, or at least like updates like on split timers where like the admin messages each team the splits of when they kill the boss and every like 20% of trash. So like at a 20% trash kill, it would send an automated message to the whole team that they have killed this percentage of trash at this timer, you know? And if it's a pull that kills like 23% trash, it would say 23% at that timer, as long as it like hit over the 20, right? And then an automated kill timer of each boss, so that the other team could start making decisions about like what's going on in the game, like live, and would lead to more amazing results like this, where the guy's like literally leaving the previous pull with the mobs just trailing after him, just like, guys, we're going. Like, I don't, like, we might die here, but like, we're going to lose anyway. So like, at least let's go down without a fight. Let's not go down without a fight, you know? And this comes from his like knowledge and pre-preparation of like what he thinks that Echo is doing, which he can't only guess at, because like for some reason Blizzard won't construct this in a way that you can have an actual tournament against other real people. You're just doing this against this like shadow boxing in his head, right? But then also comes from his mindset of like laissez-faire, like, okay, we just gotta do this, like let's just have fun with it because we're gonna lose anyway, so let's just like try to actually win, you know? Full underdog mentality of like striving as hard as you can, and who cares if we make mistakes and look bad, like look really ridiculous. Like this could look really ridiculous. He could jump in, just get one shot, his team could trail after him, and like they could just all die, like running after. He could lose aggro on the first mob. Like he has no clue. This is not how it goes in training at all, you know, but like it's just like this is the only way to win now, so even if we haven't practiced it, like just go.
Just grouping up the mobs here. We actually take a lot of damage grouping this shit up all the time, but it's
just
fine.
popped his trinket, I
I'm
think.
gonna have meta when I pull the boss.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm gonna fear these guys here for now.
I have no
for my
fear
team.
for downstairs, okay? No fear
Lost
for
her.
when they go eat. So be ready to stop eat.
So normally he would probably want to use his like stop for down at the boss. Like he would group them, and then his team would be there, and then they would pull them in, and he would use his fear on the like the eat cast. But he just used it to like actually just try to group them, kind of like this is like an adaptation, right? So these are the things that could like you know be possible. And he's in comms here, so he can call somebody else to like use their cooldown to like stop the eat. But like these are the kinds of like modifications and risks you want to make on the fly, that if it was a head-to-head sport, like they could actually, people would be more accurately able to like pull this off or like go for it.
3,
Far.
2, 1, pulling.
Whew.
This part was fucking hectic for us. Our team was not ready for this.
Coming, two of them.
We
They're
gotta
actually
go.
enraged.
Eating soon?
We gotta go.
Yo, thank you, T-Sock.
Yeah, the team's not ready, just going like crazy anyway, because they know
Thanks, my
they have
friend.
a chance to win it. It's just amazing to see. Like this is a picture of an insight
look at
of
this
what
part. This part
MDI
was
could
fucking- I saw this shit
be
in the corner of my eye. You see
with
this, acid gullet? I have
appropriate
no aggro on it.
information shared between the teams that are competing with each other, and like this more of like the person-to-person competition.
I'm like looking at this shit. I'm like,
the
fuck, I need to go
PvP
over
competition,
and pick it up.
and like this like
This
this stupid like
this shit's on me.
moving away from this like secret PvE mindset thing that I don't even know how it worked its way into the sport, but whatever
Yeah,
whatever
Grim's-
traditions like led to it occurring, like
Right on.
the justification for it cannot possibly outweigh the benefits of having open information
Obviously,
shared
whatever.
between the teams competing for it. Okay, we're about to hear.
Oh my god, you can see Cryptix is fucking under attack by these larvas.
I'm going to fast forward actually to the next part he talks about, which is 25 minutes. So I'm going to have to watch the end of this.
How did
Not losing no
You
segment.
can hear me
Turn
cry.
around for-
fucking idiots.
No, it's like, okay.
Alright. Wait, what did I say? In style.
They didn't have trash when they pulled boss.
Oh, I see it. Fucking idiots. Alright. Let's lose the Sanguine Deaths. In style.
So he says, first he calls his opponents idiots for not getting the trash right when they pulled the boss, and he can't believe that they won. And so now it's a head-to-head, 1-to-1, and they go to the decider match. And then he's like, let's go lose to them in SD, in style. So he's like culturally programming his team a little bit here. He's like saying like, let's go lose to them. Like, and his team's probably just like, I mean, I guess if our captain is saying we're going to lose, like, but like what he's doing is like freeing them up with the narrative of this underdog mentality where like they can just like laissez-faire it, like just play hard or go home, and they don't have to care about mistakes because they know that they're pushing the limits of what they can do anyway, and so they can stay in this like flow state, high performance state. But I want to give you a big hint about his mindset here at 28:40. Listen to this, okay? This is important because he's saying these things like, "Hey, we're going to lose," and let's go lose to them in style and whatever. But then he says stuff like this.
Our Sanguine devs,
Okay.
I mean this.
they were playing it nice and safe.
Pop. On left.
Yeah, we barely practiced this dungeon. Like our Sanguine devs, we had good ideas, but we didn't really practice them much. If we were actually preparing for Sanguine devs against Echo, I would have watched some of the matches that they were playing. So basically the reload versus Echo and reload versus Omega Pump. And we would have taken some strats and adapt our strategy to it, then fucking crush him with it.
A little bit slow,
But
it's acceptable.
So he's literally admitting here that if they have the time to prep and they can steal the strategies, that they can refine them and also come up with cute ideas that would allow them to crush them. And he's fully confident when he's saying that. So he's saying underdog mentality, we're going to lose to them, blah, blah, blah. For performance sake, he's in that mindset. But it's really crucial to understand that that he believes that he's actually better than them, right? Because the underdog mentality can be a problem. If you actually think that the other people are just straight up superior to you and that you could never beat them, then the underdog mentality can lead you to a state where you are never actually able to win because you're constantly undervaluing yourself and you're constantly seeing your opponents as superior, and that is not a good place to be in. But he's doing the performance version, which is I do not see them as superior. I think that we could take the strats and we could rehearse it and we would win, right? You need to have that cockiness and that edge and that belief in yourself. But then he's going in and he's saying but to win today, we're going to have to really pull it out. We are the underdog here. And he's putting this on his own. So there's the underdog where you actually think that you're ready to win. We're going to crush them today. We're going to murder them today. But the entire audience and everybody watching thinks we're the underdog. So we have nothing to lose. If we lose, it's whatever. It's just on us, right? We just feel bad. But everybody expects us to lose already. So we can only win. We either lose, which everybody thinks we're going to lose anyway, or we win, in which case we prove ourselves. That's one underdog mentality you can have. And that comes from the fans, right? And then the other underdog mentality you can have is the one where he's engendering in his team culturally, which I don't know how well it translated around, right? We need to talk to his teammates whether or not they were going in with something to prove or whether they're going in with this joyous attitude. But essentially he's saying we're going to go in with this joyous attitude of we know they're not superior to us as players and as humans, but we don't expect to win this as a team. And so we're going to try as hard as we can to pull it off. And that allows them to play more freely and be more in flow state and hopefully make less mistakes while taking bigger risks, which is what they actually did. They took bigger risks and they made fewer mistakes. So it kind of paid off. Now, the opposite mindset of that is the one that Echo has, right? They're not the underdogs, clearly. So while DORKI and co are free to play to win, Echo is essentially playing to not lose. They're playing essentially to try not to look like goons and lose to the team that everybody thinks that they should beat. Not everybody, right? I'm not saying that every single fan and whatever. What I'm saying is that the perception of who's the favorite and who's not in their minds too. This is a personal thing, right? So one way you counteract that as the team on top is that you constantly put yourself into this, I am climbing up the mountain to knock the king off and I am never to the top of my mountain. I don't know. I think Dr. Disrespect has a thing like this. I'm at the tippy top and I'm only halfway up. So you constantly have to be climbing up to knock the king off the mountain and never as the king trying to fend everybody off and playing not to lose instead of playing to win. Because what that means is that you start to restrict yourself. You start to restrict your decision making and your risk taking and your fears and subconscious about what it is that you look like and your training, and you start to put these pressures and these expectations on yourself oh, we shouldn't have messed that up. When in reality, anything that you mess up is something you should have messed up. If you mess up in training and you're oh, we shouldn't have messed that up. No, you literally messed it up. That means that you should have messed it up because you're not good enough to not mess it up. Therefore, you need to get better at it. And that is the mindset of somebody who is striving to get on top, right? And believes that they can improve. But somebody who's being fed this information from society, I've won 3 times, and like we've played badly and still won, and we have all of this like this kind of like positive reinforcement of like how awesome they are. What ends to happen is they like integrate or reorient that on themselves, and they say like, oh, I shouldn't have messed that up. I am better than that. And the moment that you like look at a mistake that you actually actively made in full probabilistic theory, like you're playing the game, you're controlling your keyboard, and you make the mistake, that is 100% always a mistake that you should have made because you did make it. There's no way around it. Like you are literally just the player that made that mistake, right? And whether or not it's a choke or bad play, you made it. So you're not good enough to not choke there, or you're not good enough to like not make that mistake there. And so when you go in and you're like already the king and you say like, oh, I shouldn't have made that mistake because I'm better than that, that's where it starts to like worm its way in and eat at you and interfere with like how it is that you improve yourself. And that's why people like start to fall off. Is because they don't properly evaluate themselves and their variations in skill level relative to like the week before and the month before and then the people that are playing now against them. Because the game is always improving, and sport as well. Sport is always improving. So even if you're like getting better, like other people are getting better faster too, or can get better faster. Well, they are getting better faster if you're the champion, because usually they're trying to beat you and you're just trying to sustain yourself. So that's the way that it is, and I think that like it's a key differentiation here that DORKI is putting the underdog mentality like in practice, like within their team as a culture, versus just like being like super try hard and being like, no, we have something to prove because everybody doesn't believe in us. That's an active choice that he's making, and it's one that has to fit the personality of your team. I think it fits his personality, probably fits his team's personality too, so it works. But on your team, it could be the exact opposite. You might need to engender the like super try hard but nothing to lose, because everybody doubts us, and so let's go out and like show it to them. I actually did that once. I did that with TSM once, where like we went into a match and we lost against like a low favored team, and it was a best of 3. We lost the first one, and as like clear strong favorites. And so in the post game talk, my goal was to put them into the orientation of total underdog mentality, but not the way that DORKI does it, like the opposite, where it's like everybody expects us. Like we have something to prove, we expect of ourselves. It was, I don't remember how I put it, but like I put them in the underdog mentality of like, we have something to prove to ourselves, in terms of like, we're going out there and we're playing not to lose, and we need to go out there to play to win. And for that, you need to like be in this play to win mentality and not this playing not to lose mentality. So like, that's the orientation that we got into. Okay. 32. And so, it's important that even as DORKI installs the culture of playing to win and like, we're going to lose to these guys, so let's just try hard. You heard him actually say that he actually believes that if he just like got the strats and they rehearsed it, that they would crush them. So that's an important differentiation and insight into how it is that he really thinks what their skill level looks like.
Back there.
Okay.
I'm going.
This is where he talks about mistaking.
And then we just pull this entire part over here.
Forward.
Watch for it.
Shackles on growl.
You guys good?
Can't open, man.
Can't open.
Can't
Feels
open,
bad,
can't
man.
Yeah, no buff.
This is where it went really fucking
Someone
bad
else
for us.
Shackles.
This was like by far the worst part for us. We lose our 10 stack completely, and we're just dealing with this massive pull.
Yeah.
It's open, right? Yeah.
We're all struggling.
I don't know.
Cryptic's dies here. I'm not sure what the fuck is going on because
We're good,
my
we're good.
camera is fucked.
Chilling.
Dodge.
Tornado.
Jared kick next.
Can't believe they
Oh,
lost their
tornado
stacks.
kills Cryptics.
Nursing, nursing.
Unreal. It's crazy that they actually pulled this pull off.
Augment.
I can't even believe it.
This shit was bad, but like I didn't care about losing at this point.
Trees in 1. Trees in
Yeah.
2.
Like I knew we were fucked against Echo. They were just way better in Sanguine Depths.
So there you go. So in Sanguine Depths, he qualifies it again. But like, he's like, we actually just really screwed up here. But like, notice his concentration, right? He still dodges every single floor global. He still constantly faces the mob. He fixes his camera. He's constantly like pulling them around, making sure that he's dodging as many auto attacks as he can, so the mobs have to reposition before they can auto again, so that like during the auto timer. So he's like minimizing the damage he's taking. He's like, using his mitigation. He's like playing totally in the flow, not making mistakes. Maybe he's making mistakes, actually. But like, anyway, they pull off this pull where they have pulled 3 full camps. they lost all their stacks and they didn't get the new ones refreshed in time before they could open it because there was like a mob or like an explosion happening on the canister. And so they just totally messed it up, but they still pulled it off. And because of their timer, they were able to capitalize on Echo's mistake. Like Echo was like 1 second from winning when this went off. Like they backtracked all the way back. They were on the mob. It was like a 30% or whatever. They were so close to winning that like if something had gone wrong here and they had wiped or like another person had died for another 5-second delay or something like that on their timer, like they would have not won the match despite Echo's massive error of like having to backtrack for farm. So it's actually wild that, you know, just one more person going down here or you know, a mistake here that would lead to like a team wipe. Like they took this huge risk and then they also messed it up and they also still like managed to like pull off the timer that they did. It's this constant echoing of this like underdog mentality that he's still doing here. I don't care about losing to Echo. They're way better in SD. I knew he screwed up. We were just like flying it, you know? Okay, now the next one he talks about is at 35 minutes. Let me fast forward to there. Then he just goes through. So you should watch his video. I'm not going to play it all here, but you should watch his thing. He talks a lot about the strats in the actual video. You can hear the comms, and then in the reaction video on his Twitch, you can hear him analyzing it, but he's talking mostly about the strategy in-game and not so much the mindset.
Use Lantern buff for third boss. Let's see, sure now. Trees.
In.
And this is kind of like the...
Watch the
Urban.
puddles.
Like, I think Echo definitely has more experience.
Out.
But I think the Chinese team are probably... I think that's true. This guy dead yet?
Boss falling an 8 kill boss.
Yeah.
3 damage.
I've seen people say you only won because Echo fucked up. I feel like more because you guys didn't fuck up. Yup. I think it's both.
Yep. That's
Here's
right
sort of how
mentality.
I see it.
Okay, here we go.
The Feeder of Pain, we fucked up.
Okay, good.
It was a very minor fuck up, but we would have won the Feeder of Pain. The
So he's saying like in a vacuum, we both perform well, we win theater.
missed, I think we both fucked up. But
Miss, he doesn't know who wins.
Echo fucked up harder. And then in this dungeon, Echo fucked up big time.
JR cloak the first.
And like, we just played this dungeon bad. Honestly, I think our Sanguine Death was just not good compared to theirs.
Like,
Yo, thank you, Fluffy.
So this is actually the perfect way to win because you win and you get the money and you get first place and you get the prestige and you prove to everybody that you won. And at the same time, you're super motivated to get better because you're like, we didn't actually win, right? Like we just played badly and then they messed up. But like bad relative to them, right? Not bad relative to all the other teams in the tournament. Bad relative to what they know their potential is internally and bad relative to Echo's potential. So it's like kind of like a best case scenario mentally for your future training.
Thanks.
All right. I'm going to read this so the ads flow through. So the next point we're going to talk about is the prep disadvantage that they had. So he says basically, we never came up with a better route to pulling the pack after this boss because we thought we were going to lose 2-0 or we were just going to go into Sanguine Depths and lose 2-1. Like they were just going to beat us in Sanguine Depths, right? They never actually prepped for the pull upcoming like route, like to find a better way to do it because they put all their training time into the previous dungeons. So this is a hard sell on a team. So you have to essentially say to your team like, we assume that we are bad and we're going to lose. And therefore, we're going to put all our training time on these first 2 maps and we're going to forget the last one because either like we're going to lose 2-0 and we're never going to get a chance to go to the final map or we're never going to get good enough at the final map to actually beat them on it. And anyway, like the chance of us playing the map is pretty low because we're going to lose anyway. Maybe DORKI can sell that to his team now. But what happens when you're like 2 championships in and your team is like believes that they're good and you're going up against the team? Like Echo can't do this. Echo can't say like, we're not even going to prep that third map because we're just going to lose 2-0. You know, like their team members will revolt. Their team members will say like, no, that's not the right mindset. Like we're better than that. Like we're better than these people. We don't want to assume that we're going to lose to them. Like that's bad mindset. What if they're actually worse though? Like what if they are going to lose to them? Then they still can't have that mindset because it's like, It's already admitting defeat beforehand. So when you're a new team coming out of the scene, you believe in your strength, but it's not proven, and you believe in the other team's strength, and you also believe that you can prep better than them, but like you just don't have time. Like you just kind of like want to qualify and finish it, right? You've already achieved your goal. So you're free to say these kinds of things and have this mindset. But it's not going to work like if they win the global finals, if they get second place in the global finals, if they do well, or even maybe going into it, depending on like the ego of their teammates, of DORKI's teammates here. Like he's going to have to like change the way that he communicates this underdog mindset to the point where like he's not pre-admitting defeat against these teams in a way that affects their training. So here, let's hear him say that. It's like 38-45 right here.
Either of their best times. I think that was like completely fine. This is also where our route was dog shit. Like us having to fight this pack here is complete dog shit. We never really bothered with coming up with a better strategy just because we didn't practice Sanguine Devs at all.
Perhaps.
It's like I was saying, like we were not prepared to play any Sanguine Devs because this was only supposed to be against Echo, and we thought we were just gonna like lose 2-0 or 0-2 to Echo, and like not even bother. Octave 0 there so far.
Right. So there is a reality, which is like strategically an analyst would tell the team, your chance of beating Echo or going to the Sanguine Depths match against Echo is very low. You're never going to play Sanguine Depths against any other team, so don't put any training time into it. That's the most efficient thing. That's something an analyst or like a caster or like a fan could say. But when you're actually on the team, it's not something a coach can say to the team unless he knows the team really well, and like that's their mindset too. Because like I said, you have to already denigrate yourself. You have to like kind of like believe that but not believe it. You have to have your players have to have this dichotomy of like, yes, we're going to lose 2-0 to them, but also we are good enough to beat them and we're going to beat them. Because like as soon as you like start pre-admitting defeat, you start to limit like your capability and preparation. But they're doing strategically, and they've already kind of like decided that. And this isn't an esport where like there's a season and this is a paid team and they're like already in it, you know, and they've already qualified and it's one of the top 10 teams, you know, in the esport in the season, and they're like competing year in and year out for this like playoffs. In that situation, or if they get themselves to that situation where they are like a constant MDI competitor, like that kind of like communication within the team is going to stop working. I've seen it time and time again, and they're going to have to find out of some other way of like more efficiently designating their training than like kind of communicating to the team that they were going to lose to this squad anyway. So like it's a low probability play to prep that map, because I guarantee you Echo can't do that anymore. It's too late for them. That ship has sailed. Right, 41:30. Here I'm looking at time. I'm like, we lost. I'm banking on an Echo wipe here. Okay.
Oh, shit.
Spin soon. She's going to spin in.
Yeah.
So here they're still trying hard.
There it is.
They know they haven't lost yet.
My team can't even hook the boss, but ground casually hooks talk it out like it's nobody's business. Yup.
See you next.
Spinning 3.
Okay, so not much else goes on here. I can just like fast forward just a little bit.
Okay.
Here I'm looking at time. I'm like, man, we fucking lost.
Actually, it's not spawned yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Ready?
I was basically banking on.
Here he's like, they haven't messaged yet. Like he's looking at the timer. He's like, well, they haven't messaged that we lost yet. So Echo hasn't killed the boss yet, but I'm pretty sure that they're about to kill the boss. You know what I mean? Like he's looking at the timer thinking like, this is way beyond the time that Echo usually wins.
Echo to wipe. Like I feel like the only way we would have won is if Echo wiped here.
Dodge.
Waiting for the nerd screams. I'm gonna check some YouTube comments real quick. There's someone to that last stand. Please see Blood DK. Okay, MDI I would have. I'm just thinking in my head the entire time, like, what the fuck is going on?
He's like, why haven't they messaged
They
yet?
haven't called that you guys have lost yet. Because normally in chat, I'm just like staring at chat for the admins to type.
Okay.
The other team has won or something. But they haven't typed that yet. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Boys.
Nobody can kind of believe it. Everybody's just kind of like waiting like, okay. I mean, we have 100% count. We're about to kill the boss. How come Echo hasn't won yet? Like, what's going on? You know?
I'm so confused. Let me cheat.
So this is another danger of Blizzard's setup of not allowing teams to know how they're competing head to head. So here already, DORKI's team has a chance to win going into the last boss, but they don't know that. So they cannot then adjust the whole entire time they've been playing with this like certain play style in order to try to like get this point to the point where they can like win, right? And here they are. They've made it. They made it to the point where they can actually win because now they would know that Echo has made a mistake, and now they would know that they have like, X number of extra seconds to try to win, and now would be the time where like that information would give them adrenaline and this like pump of kind of anxiety and risk assessment where they would never relax. They would never like come down. They wouldn't be like in this apprehensive state where like they're kind of like looking at chat and wondering what's going on and like more liable to make a mistake. How sad would it have been if like they got here and because they're like kind of like a information gap, they got a little lax, or like they were just like looking and wondering and kind of like their mind was split and somebody just made a mistake and died, and it cost them the timer instead of this glorious situation that did happen, which is they were all focused up and they kind of like clinched it out at the end and actually finished the boss with no mistakes and no muck ups. And that could have happened, I would guess, in a more repeatable and sport-like manner if they were racing side by side and they could like look over and see like, okay, this guy's breathing down my neck. I know he's there. I know that I need to finish out these 2 strides strong and like put in that effort, right? With full-minded focus on the goals. Right now they have split-minded focus, and that little like seed of doubt is the place where these unforced errors start to creep in. But if you give competitors the opportunity to have whole-minded focus on the purpose, that is when you're going to have these like really epic cinematic moments occur, like what just happened in this game, more often, because like people can start clutching. It's really hard to clutch in a PvE situation. It's just really hard. It's player versus player when they have full knowledge of what's going on and they know what they need to do, and they're in this like mano a mano situation, and they have to supersede their like what they know is possible for themselves in order to achieve something with this like whole-minded focus that you start to get these like brilliant sporting moments. And so that is what I want to engineer to occur more readily in the MDI, that like happens in PvP, or that happens in raids when you have these 20-person like epic teams, and they have to like put that stuff together in this choreographed dance. But like in this head-to-head, it can only happen in these kind of like rarer circumstances. I think partially because this information gap exists. Like they can't actually be competing with each other and really encourage this kind of like cinematic moment.
So let me cheat here, and then
Blast it.
cheat, kill the boss.
Come
Did
on,
we win?
Blast it. Come on.
They still can't believe it. They're like, did we win? They're like, what's going on?
Death timer.
Come on.
Oh no way, please.
The guy says
Come
death
on!
timer. Oh my god. And we won. Holy shit. No way.
No way.
What? How'd they lose? I don't understand.
Because our run is so much better, man.
No. They're ahead of us.
This is where I was so
They must have
confused.
wiped. They must have wiped.
So now he's like watching. He's like, no, they're ahead of us. He's like watching their perspective on the delayed stream, and he's like, they must have wiped or something. Like something must have went wrong. He doesn't know what happened. He's still watching their delayed stream, and he's like, how could we possibly win?
How the fuck does Echo lose to Viz? What?
There's no fucking way, man.
Wait, they're so ahead. Holy shit. Wait.
Yeah, they wiped. They must have wiped.
God damn, the Saga Dawn. Dude. Yeah, no way. Yeah.
We got the
They
bird.
forgot
Let's
the bird. It was the
go!
one run we did at the
It was not
beginning
the
of
bird.
God.
match where we remembered the bird.
Yeah, it wasn't the bird.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no, dude. This is not a good way to win, man.
Okay, so he said
All right,
that. He said that to his team. That's not what he said here in the analysis, but in his team, he said, "This is not a good way to win, guys." It's true. It's like the way that you win matters. I tell this to my team all the time. I'm like, they're so focused. I had this losing team once, and they were just like so focused on winning and winning and winning. They were like, we just never win. And I was like, you don't want to win, okay? It's not good enough for you. And they were like, yeah, it is. We just want to win a game. And I was like, okay, imagine this situation. I told them a situation like, imagine that you go into a game, okay, and you're like, you know that you're bad, and you know that you're worse than your teammates, and you're worse than your other opponents, right? And you like make 20 mistakes in the opening, and you make it so hard for your team to win, and your team like clutches it and pulls you out of it, and like carries you across the victory line. And the only reason they did is because the enemy team was playing like super cocky and made a couple mistakes and just like let you kind of like accidentally like win by like throwing. But it was like even in a throw, you made so many game losing errors that your team just like is really could have won the game like 4 versus 5 more easily than like you being in it, right? Do you want to win that game? Like, is that the game you want to win? And universally, every single competitor is like, no, I don't care if I win a game like that. Like, I'm going to go next and try to win like a real game. It's like, yeah, right. You want to win the game where you get super fed, where you have amazing items, and you're like really far ahead, and you're dominating your opponent, and it feels so good, and you carry the whole game, and you're the hero. And they're like, yeah, that's the game I want to win. So the way that you win matters in sport. It's not enough for competitors who are actually doing the competing. It's enough for the fans a lot of times. But it's not enough for the competitors who are actually competing to like win the wrong way or to lose the right way. Is the brutal way, or lose the wrong way. So that's where that comment from DORKI comes from when he's saying like, this is not a good way to win. It's like nobody wants this victory. You know, they want to crush their opponent. They don't want to like kill the boss after their opponent and actually lose, but then on a technicality that like shouldn't exist, like win, you know?
Cut it over here. Oh no, dude. This is not a good way to win, man. All right, we cut it over here. That was good. Imagine losing.
Right. So it's like, it's not a good way to win, right? But imagine losing.
No, but we didn't think we'd ever win against Echo. Those guys are actually insane. Like, I still think they're the best players, the real champions. They just fucked up big time, that's all. Yo, what up, Asian? Why is Prop Alley not good? It's because they're...
So that is kind of like the last thing I want to highlight when he says, I think that they're the real champions. We didn't think we'd win against Echo. So it's like interesting that like that's even his perspective now, you know, even after the victory. I think it's probably important. You're going into training. It doesn't matter at all whether you won or you lost in training. The only thing that matters is your perspective towards training, and the only thing you want is not laziness. You want sharp, driven, motivated pursuit of like the highest order. And for that, you want to like have this fear, this crucial like nagging doubt that like you're not good enough. And it's like this double-edged sword of perfectionism that I always talk about, right? Where you have to have this dichotomy of like believing that you can be the best, but also believing that you're not there, or else like you're not going to train hard enough to like edge out in these like micro differences between like 1%ers at the top to edge out the like top performers. Okay. And WoW is not as competitive as like League of Legends, right? There's not like 100 million people on the ladder all competing for that one spot, those 10 or 20 global spots of competition, but it is still a showcase of skill at the top end of the skill distribution ladder, right? And so the skill separating these people can be determined by how it is that you train. And it's really important that that is sharp. And so the mindset going into that is really key. And it kind of like doesn't matter at this point whether they won or lost. All that matters is their perception towards it for their future training. And then there's one more statement that he makes.
The one
here.
match that we actually played good, we lost. The Theater of Pain. I felt like we played really good in the Theater of Pain. I mean, obviously we had the fuck up in the end. we would have beat Echo in the Theater of Pain. But like the one time we decided to play perfect up until the end, they decided to play almost perfect too. But like all the other games, we actually stomped them and we played like shit. You guys need to stop thinking that. You really can beat Echo. Your win was just deserved. Yeah, it's just like the way I always see winning, just me personally, is that I want to be able to dominate the other team. Like I want to be able to like win because we just had like straight up better stuff. I was surprised Echo banned Necrotic.
Yeah, that's the key, right? When you're looking back in 15 years, it's going to be kind of like important that you have the trophy or whatever, but like the things that you're going to remember are the wins that you had that were like because of the effort you put in that you have no regrets. You have no regrets about that win. You dominated them. You had that moment of like showcase of your training and your potential like coming out, and then this like it's clear to you, it's clear to them, it's clear to everybody in the world, in the universe that like you're the best. And that's what people are striving for in these competitive in these competitions. And like the result is not what motivates people to get up and churn through it, right? Like at some level, yes, of course. But that's not the thing that motivates the brain towards the pursuit of mastery. And so more often it's this like desire to dominate and to like supersede other people and to like be on the top of the mountain. And for that, you need to like play your best and they play their best and you win. And that's what he almost got in Theater Pain, right? Is like, it would have been like us playing our best. It would have been them playing their best, and we would have won if we didn't make that mistake, and then we would have dominated them. And everything else doesn't even matter. All the other matches are irrelevant to me because we played bad, and they played worse. And what he wants is he wants to like put together like 3 or 4 good performances that he can look back and be like, we might have been able to do that better, but like we executed like at the peak level of where we were in training and like above it. Like we really clutched it and the performance brought it out in us. And like that was the fastest that we literally have ever done. And then he wants to like win or lose against the team, right? It doesn't even matter at that point whether or not he wins or loses because like that's just literally the best that they could do. And that's what you want, is you want to be able to play the absolute maximum best that you could possibly do. And then like the result at that point is a foregone conclusion. It's just a skill mapping. It's just like, well, they were better, so they won. Especially in these like racing formats where it's like irrelevant how your skills intermesh with the other team, right? It's just not a player versus player kind of situation. So, all right, that's the show today. I hope that you enjoyed these 3 videos. Please check out Now and Jinji's point of view if you haven't yet about their mindset on the other side, on like the trying not to lose mindset. DORKI has a really great and interesting perspective here, and it's going to carry him relatively well this season, and I'm excited to see like how it evolves and how his mindset evolves in the ways that he talks to his team. He always puts his videos up so you can kind of like see how it is that the chatter goes, and what the culture it is that he likes to inculcate in his team. And he kind of like is a really dominant vocal captain, and so he like says what he thinks, and that means that the way that he thinks is always kind of going to be the way that he tells the team that he thinks. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. I'm really pumped for the global finals and to watch them. Make sure to check out DORKI's socials here. I put his sponsors on the screen there too. I will not shout them out again. But make sure to check out the other 2 YouTube videos if you haven't yet, please.